Hi guys, today I want to discuss the baffling phenomenon of cattle mutilation. Cattle or animal mutilation is the killing and mutilation of cattle and other domesticated or wild animals under unusual, bloodless circumstances. This is a worldwide, long-lasting mystery. The earliest known documentation of unexplained livestock deaths occurred in 1606, over 400 years ago in England, which includes the bizarre selective mutilation of hundreds of sheep. During the modern era, for decades, ranchers from North America, Europe, Africa, Central and South America, and Australia have reported similar cattle mutilation cases. It was said that over 10,000 animals have been mutilated in the US alone. These reports don't matter if they were from 400 years ago or just occurred within the last year in 2023. They all share almost identical patterns. The mutilated animals were described as healthy and strong, best of the stock with no signs of distress before the killing. Most were completely drained of blood. There were no signs of struggle, no bullets, no animal tracks, footprints, or tire tracks around the carcasses, like the animals had been elevated and returned to the ground. There is no edible meat taken, but specific internal organs were carefully removed with surgical precision, such as eyes, ears, tongues, lymph nodes, rectums, and genitalia with oval or circular incisions. Sometimes surrounding burned grass were noted. Multiple reports involved pregnant cows with their unborn calves and entire reproductive organs missing. Ranchers, investigators, and police have noticed that no predators or birds tried to scavenge these mutilated animals, which were left to decay untouched for several weeks. It's as if these unfortunate animals died in such a perplexing way that even scavengers didn't want to have anything to do with their dead bodies. What is happening here? Who have been mutilating and killing animals all over the globe for hundreds of years? Why would they do such a horrible thing? Various explanations have been offered, ranging from normal predation, natural death and decomposition, to cults and secretive governmental agencies, to extraterrestrial aliens. In this video, I'll share my speculation on this century-long mystery. Based on current evidence, who might be behind cattle mutilation? What could be their possible goals with the biological materials taken from animals? And if the mutilation cases were really done by aliens, why this could mean the aliens were benevolent, at least to humans? First of all, I don't believe predators or natural decomposition of bodies could create circular incisions on deceased cattle's behinds and underbellies, or lead to the complete draining of a big animal's blood and leave no stains. So, it's rational to rule out the natural cause explanation. I also don't think secret government agencies would mutilate animals and leave the carcasses behind to be found. If governments want to do some black project experiments on animals, why not just set up classified facilities to do so? The governments sure don't need to go through the trouble to travel to different, difficult-to-reach locations across the globe to capture cows. Mutilated cattle are often killed and disposed of in remote ranches with sparse human population. These mutilation cases almost always occur discreetly at night, which means the perpetrators didn't want to be seen. If someone wants to mutilate a cow quietly without being noticed, and have the means to subdue, tranquilize, and transport a bull that weighs 2,000 pounds or a ton while leaving no tracks at night, then they should also have been able to hide or bury the mutilated carcass. Why leave the evidence out in the open? Some think exposing the mutilated animals was to stir fear in the public's mind and might be an act of a cult. But these poor animals were discarded on distant private properties, such as pastures or woods, with no blood. If a certain cult wants to cast fear into people, exhibiting bloody mutilated animals in populated cities and town centers would be far more effective. And for that scare tactic, the removal of organs doesn't need to be so precise and surgical. In addition, I doubt a cult, a secret agency, or any private society can operate completely under the radar for centuries. Spend the time, money, and effort to go around Earth to silently mutilate tens of thousands of animals on hard-to-find ranches. What's the point of that? If blood and organs are what they are after for satanic rituals, wouldn't it be easier, cheaper, and more discreet to simply buy cattle and do organ harvesting out of the public's eye? Thus, I do not find these explanations satisfactory. Now, about the hypothesis that the aliens mutilated animals. This is worth exploring. If certain extraterrestrials were advanced enough to traverse interplanetary to Earth, then they would have the technological capability to tranquilize, elevate, and mutilate large livestock with high precision, thus explaining a lot of the strange features observed on mutilated animals, such as why there is no struggle, no tracks, and circular surgical-like incisions. Aliens also don't need to worry about covering the bodies to hide the crime. Furthermore, some people have reported seeing weird lights or UFO/UAPs around the time of the mutilations. Is it possible that aliens are the ones mutilating animals? In my last video, I explained why it's not logical for a highly advanced alien civilization to traverse through galaxies to mine metals and minerals on Earth. Because terrestrial planets like Earth and Mars, 300 million of them in our galaxy alone, naturally contain heavier elements with high melting points, which implies that they might largely be constituted with similar elements. For that reason, it's unlikely an advanced alien species would come to Earth to mine metals, which they can basically locate on all rocky planets and asteroids. If ETs do visit us and mine any earthly materials, they would go after the unique objects on Earth, which set Earth apart from other terrestrial planets. The truly precious items found on Earth, which can pique the interest of advanced aliens and justify their uber high-cost space travel endeavors, would be the complex life forms on Earth. If there is anything that worth collecting from Earth, it wouldn't be gold or gems, but biological samples. So, ETs would at least have the motive to gather animal body parts from our planet. Think about it from our point of view. We're also eagerly searching for planets with any trace of life. On a much smaller scale, if a new animal species gets discovered on Earth, researchers would definitely observe, collect data, and even take samples to study it. With the same mentality, sophisticated ETs would be extremely curious about life on Earth and want to take samples to do research on. Whichever aliens can reach Earth are clearly far more superior than us technologically in every field. If they visited Earth centuries ago, mutilated hundreds of animals, and took internal organs and blood with them, then it's conceivable that they have already sequenced the whole genomes of these animals and know how the animal body and each organ functions biologically better than we do. If ET's research is already done and over, then why do they keep coming back to our planet to mutilate more animals in order to collect more organs and blood? Let me remind you that traveling through space-time to visit another planetary system would take an astronomical amount of energy and effort, thus being super expensive. If the aliens' intention was academic research, then they wouldn't need to revisit Earth so frequently, or to take this much biological material. As a highly developed race, the aliens would have done cost-benefit analyses and deemed that the benefit or reward of these biological harvests outweighed the high cost of space trips. Therefore, there must be a very good reason for aliens to return to Earth periodically and collect all these animal blood and organs. If the pervasive cattle mutilation incidents are not meant merely for alien research, then it's likely that ETs have been gathering desirable raw materials for industrial or manufacturing usage. Some have proposed that we are regularly visited by extraterrestrials because the souls of Earthlings are special, and that might relate to cattle mutilation. Is that true or not? I don't know, since we don't actually understand what a soul is. What we do know for a fact from these mutilation cases is that blood and specific organs have been carefully removed repeatedly. If ETs are the ones doing cattle mutilation, then these organs must be quite valuable to them and worthy of traveling through space to obtain. What is so special about these animal body parts? Why would aliens come here to harvest them? I mentioned in my last video that all life on Earth is carbon-based. The laws of physics, biochemistry, and thermodynamics makes carbon the most likely candidate as the basis for complex organic molecules in the universe. Meanwhile, the suggested silicon-based advanced life is not plausible because of the transient and unstable silicon chemistry. As a result, high-tech aliens are most likely to be carbon-based as well, and they would share a resemblance to life on Earth. In equivalent areas of the genome, humans are 98.8% genetically similar to chimpanzees, 75% genetically similar to chickens, and even share approximately half of our DNA with bananas. How similar would the genome of advanced aliens be with humans? If humans and animals are not much different biologically from aliens, that implies animals' blood, organs, in essence, cells and genes, could be of use to aliens medically, right? Let's check again the organs often taken from mutilated animals. We might find some clues on why they're targeted. The FBI did an examination on the sweeping cattle mutilations in America in 1979 and recorded bloodless cuts and missing unusual body parts such as ears, eyeballs, tongues, lymph nodes, genitals, and rectums. The earliest known animal mutilation documentation from the 17th century states that nothing is taken from the sheep but their tallow and some inward parts. Tallow is the fat tissue of farm animals. It's worth noting that anatomically, lymph nodes are surrounded by fat tissue called adipose tissue. So perhaps the records of the fat tissue and lymph nodes being taken are referring to the same thing. Michael Goldman researched cattle mutilation in the 1970s and stated that bladder and noses are often missing too. Recent mutilation cases usually show the following organs taken: tongues, reproductive organs, udders, unborn calves from pregnant cows, sometimes an eye or an ear. It seems to me that eyes and ears might not be the mutilator's main goal of a collection, where they would have cut off both eyes and ears instead of only taking one eye or ear per animal. What appear to be more commonly mutilated are tongues, genitalia, fat tissues, udders, and unborn calves from pregnant cows, and of course, blood. Killing pregnant cows and taking their uteruses with unborn calves sounds very cruel. That reminded me of a highly controversial research of embryonic stem cell, which also involves the destruction of embryos. The best sources to obtain stem cells are embryonic, cord blood, cord tissue, and placental because they are the purest and the youngest stem cells and function more quickly and effectively than adult stem cells. Hence, by taking the reproductive organs of pregnant cows, the mutilators would have acquired the best stem cells of cattle. Could this be the reason why pregnant cows were mutilated? Are aliens collecting stem cells? Stem cell research is a new frontier. Unlike most cells, which are unable to divide and can only perform particular functions, stem cells can divide over and over to produce new stem cells. They can be guided into becoming many different types of cells that make up the body. They can turn to specific cells and regenerate and repair tissues in people and animals that have been damaged or affected by disease. It's foreseeable that one day we won't need donor organs in organ transplantation anymore, but we'll use stem cells instead. Heart, liver, blood, hands, and almost any parts of the body can be repaired and regenerated through reprogrammed stem cells. On top of that, it was observed that old human cells can be rejuvenated and become more youthful using stem cell technology. Stanford researchers found that elderly mice regained youthful strength after stem cell transplantation. Several groups had found stem cell treatment can lead to the reversal of certain aging symptoms, such as vision loss in mice, and also extend their lifespans. Even though it's premature to suggest age reversal at this point, the anti-aging or rejuvenation potential of stem cell therapy is beyond exciting and could start an amazing revolution in biochemical and pharmaceutical industries. These new researches make stem cell treatment sounds like the fountain of youth. Aliens who travel to Earth would be far more advanced, and they are most likely carbon-based just like us. It's imaginable that these aliens did their own versions of stem cell research and have mature and implementable stem cell technology. Maybe they also have the same ethical controversies in their society and thus are forced to harvest stem cells from another carbon-based species on a foreign planet. But if that's the case, why in cattle mutilation cases, other than unborn calves, tons, genitalia, and other organs were removed too? Do these specific parts also have stem cells, or were they taken for different purposes? Besides the most preferred embryonic stem cells can be found throughout the body. It may seem as though they can easily be harvested, but it's the volume and the age of stem cells that are the main driving factors in where they are sourced. Here is a chart on human cell class distribution across select tissues. I wanted to find similar information on cattle but couldn't. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think since humans and cattle are both mammals, the human cell count and distribution might correspondingly represent the ones of cattle. Anyway, on this chart, I highlighted the body parts which are frequently taken from cattle: tongue, female breast, testes, bladder, and the fatty adipose tissue. Do you think it's a coincidence that these organs share 3 cell types, and all of them contain stem cells? Epithelial and endothelial are the other 2 shared cells. Epithelial cells are a type of cell that covers the inside and outside of the surface of your body. They're found on skin, blood vessels, and organs. Endothelial cells form a single cell layer that lines all blood vessels and regulates exchanges between the bloodstream and the surrounding tissues. These cells, like most other cells, serve precise functions, while stem cells can propagate and be programmed to different cells. Stem cells have life-saving, regenerating, and rejuvenating properties that could be a miracle treatment to repair biological bodies and even reverse aging. Among these 3 shared cells, I think only stem cells would be very desirable to supremely intelligent aliens. So desirable that alien pharmaceutical companies might have employed AIs or trained personnel to travel to another planet to harvest them. In labs, stem cells grow and propagate in specialized high-quality cell culture. Cell culture or tissue culture is the process by which cells are grown under controlled conditions, generally outside of their natural environment. Translating advanced cell-based therapies to clinic has been extremely challenging, since cell products differ from general medicine because cells are alive. Cultured cells are greatly affected by the culture method and medium quality. Aside from temperature and gas mixture, the most commonly varied factor in culture system is the cell growth medium. And hear this. The growth factors used to supplement media are often derived from the serum of animal blood, such as fetal bovine serum, bovine calf serum, equine serum, and porcine serum. Remember in those bloodless mutilations that the animal's blood was completely drained. On average, a cow has approximately 10 gallons or 39 liters of blood. Why would aliens need this much cattle blood? Is that possible the ETs harvested the blood of each mutilated animal to create a designated culture per animal for its mutilated organs, tissues, and by extension the cultivation of stem cells? Some may ask, if stem cells can self-propagate, and the aliens visited Earth and mutilated animals hundreds of years ago, why are they still coming back to do the same business? Although stem cells are traditionally thought to be immortal and exempt from aging, a reduced ability to repair tissues, and increased susceptibility to cancer during aging indicates that stem cells may undergo an age-related functional decline. On the other hand, there might be a time limit on how long stem cells can live in culture. Stem cell storage began in the 1990s, so the data on preserved stem cell lifespans is limited. Such facilities keep their stem cells in liquid nitrogen at a temperature of minus 196 degrees Celsius. Current research says the stored cord blood may be useful for only 15 years. So, the alien stem cell harvesters might have to return to Earth to replenish their stock after using up the last batch of the functional stem cells. Another question is whether aliens can use cells from earthly animals. Cells are the basic building blocks of all living things, and genes can be found deep within cells. We all have heard of CRISPR, the gene editing tool, which is like molecular scissors to selectively modify DNA. In a recent study, scientists inserted an alligator gene into a catfish to make the fish more resistant to infections and disease. The result was promising. The genetically modified fish survived at rates that were 2 to 5 times higher than their unedited counterparts. Although it may sound like science fiction, gene editing could be used to enhance or introduce new traits across species. So, at least in theory, carbon-based aliens could use cells and genes obtained from mutilated animals from Earth. On another note, why did aliens mutilate mostly farm animals like cattle? Are farm animals special? Probably not. Evidence shows that wild animals were mutilated in a similar peculiar manner. Hence, the mutilators seems to be not too specific on the animal species. Why the prevailing mutilation reports are on farm animals could be due to the following reasons. The ranch owners keep records of their livestock and would report unusual animal mutilation cases. And certain farm animals like cattle are usually raised outdoors in good numbers. That's easy for mutilators to discreetly capture animals of their choice, without causing too much disturbance to humans. The mutilations were done during the most inconspicuous times, late in the night. If aliens were doing the mutilation, it appears that they didn't want to bring more upsetting sights and trauma to us Earth dwellers, that they tried to minimize our fears, possible social unrest, and chaos these mutilations could cause. The aliens also spread out their killing and harvest sites to different regions and continents, as if they intended to not overkill in one area. Which leads to my next point. These aliens could be considered as benevolent, at least to us. Humans are the most intelligent animal on the planet who developed modern technology, and it's quite possible that human genes and cells share more common characteristics with advanced ETs than cows. If aliens can kill and mutilate adult bulls of 2,000 pounds with no tracks or blood left behind, they could have easily done the same to humans. But they didn't. This shows that the ETs are demonstrating restraint and consideration to humans, as they could have done much more damage in a public setting that's likely bringing a paralyzing panic to our society. Some have proposed that the government might have known about the alien organ harvest, and even signed some secret treaty or agreement with the aliens. There is such a possibility, but if this is true, it actually signifies that ETs mean no real harm to us and are diplomatic and respectful to native Earth people. Think about it. These space travel aliens are so much more advanced. They could come and go and do whatever they please to Earthlings, and we would have no means to stop them. They wouldn't need to get approval from or sign a treaty with any government. If they are truly malevolent and have bad intentions, they could have attacked our cities, infrastructures, and military. They could have killed and mutilated humans. Governments would be basically powerless fighting against these aliens. However, these aliens didn't do so. They prudently observed and monitored Earth, only to collect animal biological materials from low population areas under cover of night. That being said, even though we regard these cattle mutilation cases as cruel and heartless, the possible ET mutilators may be showing their restraint and benevolence in some respects. In summary, my conjecture is that if aliens are behind the animal mutilation phenomena, based on the organs they usually take, maybe the ETs are collecting stem cells and materials for cell culture. Stem cells possess regenerative abilities and could be a powerful and legit technology to repair and rejuvenate life forms. Stem cells might be the closest thing to the fountain of youth, and that should be a good enough incentive for advanced aliens to to periodically travel interplanetary to Earth to gather needed raw material. It's not too far-fetched to think that aliens might have been collecting stem cells on Earth for medicinal, pharmaceutical, and therapeutic industries for their home planet. What do you think? If you have any insights, please leave me a comment. If you like my video, please subscribe to my channel and share with others. You can also support me on Patreon, which is a monthly charge, or on Buy Me a Coffee. I appreciate your support. This is Curious Being. I'm Tina. Thanks for watching and see you next time.